The NFL draft has been and gone, so we are fully in the off-season and off-season content now. And today, me and my co-host Nick Corbs are going to be bringing you our 5 most improved teams from the end of last season. So that's including the draft, free agency, coaching hires, etc., etc. Which team has improved the most and why? But before we get into those 5 teams new, we have a big announcement. We finally hit 1,000 subscribers on YouTube. Thank you so much to everyone that's watched our content, left comments, good and bad, and for supporting us and making these NFL videos and NFL draft videos. We love making them for you. We hope you love watching them as much as we love making them. And Nu, you also finished your exams yesterday, so big few days for you.
Yes, but I know that the 1K was more special though, Dom. 4 years of university done. Now I can full-time focus on the NFL off-season. And, hopefully we've got lots more of off-season content coming. And maybe even 1,000 subscriber special in the works. We'll
maybe. And look, from 1,000, thank you so much again for the support. We're on to 10K. So if you haven't already, make sure you subscribe for more NFL off-season content. We're going to be coming at you, maybe not as regularly as we had done on the draft season, but we'll definitely be doing off-season previews, rankings, summer scouting, etc. So make sure you subscribe for all of that. Now, let's get into our top 5 most improved teams this season. And I'm going to start with an honorable mention, not one that made it into my top 5, but it's your New York Giants, Nu. Now, I know they don't have a 100% guarantee at quarterback. I appreciate that. But I do think that Russ is an upgrade to Daniel Jones. And I do think that Jameis, in a pinch, can at least keep the offense moving. And look, Mike gave you his 40 for 40 kind of season in a few games. And you have the highs and the lows of the James experience. And you've got Jackson Dart as that kind of future piece. It doesn't blow me away, the quarterback room, by any means. But it doesn't have to, I think, because this defense now is absolutely stacked. They've got Abdul Carter, obviously their first round draft pick, a player that we were really high on, one of the best players in the draft. They've got Brian Burns opposite him on the other edge rush position. They've got Dexter Lawrence up the middle, now alongside Darius Alexander. That front four is one of the best front fours, if not the best front four, I would say now in the NFL. And behind them, they've got a really exciting and mostly young secondary. They've got Tyler Nubin, Deontay Banks, Drew Phillips. They signed Javon Holland in free agency. And obviously they have Malik Neighbors already. They got Tyron Tracy. And now they've added Cam Scatterboo on offense. And I love those 3 guys. Now, obviously, we have the issue with Brian Dable and Joe Schoen. They're playing for their jobs. That might create a bit of uncertainty. That might lead to a few ill decisions, maybe, of not looking towards the long term, but focusing only on the short term. And really, they have to go above 500 to survive this season, right? So with that comes risk and bad decisions. But I think this team definitely got better and new. They're the Vegas favorites at the moment to be the first overall pick next year. And I don't know about you, but I'm not buying that.
No, I've done that. They're actually the first one I was going to talk about is my New York Giants. And for all the reasons you just said, the over-under's 5.5 wins this year, which I think is the best Giants team that's been in the last 4 or 5 years. You say that you also, Marcus Bowie drafted in the 5th round. Amazing guy that can really show that interior offensive line. Paul Debo got from the Saints. So is an elite defense that can really rival, the Jaden Daniels and the Jalen Hurts of the NFC East. I really like the makeup of this Giants team.
That might be a bit rich for me.
I think it's probably one of the best D-lines in the league and a really, like you said, a really good young secondary. The only issue is receiver depth, still a bit shaky and still not really much of a tight end option outside of Theo Johnson. But I really think this team can sneak into the wild card.
Yeah. I don't know about. Look, thing is that I do think on defense alone, this team could get like 8 wins. It's just, I'm not sure if I see their ceiling being that much higher. We will do full off-season breakdowns into all of these teams. For now, this is just looking at how much better they've gotten. So I'm not ready yet to just plant my flag like that. But I would 100% fade the New York Giants being a top 10 pick, actually, I would say, let alone the first overall pick, which would put them in that kind of 7, 8, 9 win kind of range, depending. I think at the moment, I feel that's fair. And I agree with you, the receiver depth isn't fantastic after Malik Neighbors. Obviously, they have Darius Slayton. They also have Wan'Dale Robinson, which is fine. I would have liked someone else alongside Neighbors. But you can't fix a team in a whole offseason. And fundamentally, the defense is so good that I think that alone is going to carry them through to way more wins than they had this season. So who do you have as your number 5 ranked team then?
Okay, so I have, we'll do it in order. Okay, I have the Carolina Panthers. Dom is my 5th most improved team. And this is basically what I thought they absolutely smashed the draft. This is a team that had such low expectations for going in, and getting Tessero McMillan was an absolutely A-plus pick, and then Nick Scorton the second, who I thought was a fringe first-round edge rusher. I think they've gotten better. They've really given Bryce Young all the tools they need to improve. They've re-signed J.C. Horn, who's like a star defensive piece. Still got that really strong interior O-line. I really like what they're building around. All it comes down to is Bryce Young on how good this team can be, but they've given him all the tools that he needs to succeed.
Yeah, the Carolina Panthers are my fourth, so I'll talk about them here as well. I mean, they were record-breakingly bad on defense last year. They allowed the most points in NFL history, and they got better because Derek Brown is going to come back now, healthy. That's a huge addition. That's not a free agent signing. That's not a draft pick. That's just a player who was injured, unfortunately, for basically every single game last season, barring one, I think, which was the first game against the Patriots, I believe. And they're getting him back, so that's fantastic. Like you say, adding Nick Scouten, I think he's going to be so much better than he was at Texas A&M. I think he's going to be the Purdue version of Nick Scouten. I think they're going to allow him to drop 15 pounds, have him play the pass before playing the run, just put him in a better position. I love that. And then Princey Umamianen as well, another good draft pick, another edge rusher. I said after they took Tessero McMillan, I would then just draft every single player after that, just would be defense. And they did that for the first two picks after, and they got really good players. I mean, both of those guys were being spoken about in first-round mock drafts pretty regularly. And I think they went in the value where I would have taken them in the end. But nevertheless, these guys are big talents despite being taken a bit later in the draft. And they also brought in Tershawn Wharton and Bobby Brown in free agency to shore up that defensive line. And like you say, McMillan, massive get for this team, massive get for Bryce Young finally having his wide receiver one. And it just means that everyone else gets just a bump down the depth chart to probably their better position, basically. So that means McMillan will be the one. You've then got, obviously, Leggett as that two. You've got Adam Thielen as that kind of 3, 4, depending on where you have. Who was the Holy Cross wide receiver? Jalen Coker. And then they also drafted Jimmy Horn Jr. as well. And brought in Hunter Renfrow. So they're going to find 3 good guys to put on the field there and have a really good fourth to be in a rotation in case of injury or whatever. And I just think Bryce Young is really now ready to take that next step. The Panthers have obviously bought into him, and they should hopefully pick up from where they left off last year, which was looking like a really hot team. I mean, they almost beat the Chiefs if it wasn't for, ironically, an Xavier Leggett drop. So maybe I was a year early with my Panthers take, and maybe you were a year early with the Chicago Bears take, which we might talk about in just a second.
Yes, we will.
Now, my fifth most improved team this offseason is the Jacksonville Jaguars. I am a Trevor Lawrence believer. I don't care who knows it. He is still, how crazy is this, Nu? He is still only 25 years old and will be 25 until October of this year.
Producer Paddy.
How crazy. This guy's been in the league for like 5 years. When was he drafted? He's like a child that yearns for the mines. Like, what is this? Like, he just played 1 year of college and came to the NFL. Like, I think he's poised, finally, and whisper it quietly, for a breakout year with the Jags. And I think the Jags are as well. They've got Liam Cohen, new head coach, 1 year as the Bucs offensive coordinator, only offense in the NFL last year that was top 5 in yards per game, passing yards per game, and rush yards per game. He did a lot with Baker Mayfield, who, look, I believe in, you can see it behind me, I love Baker Mayfield, but if we're being honest with ourselves, he's not as talented as Trevor Lawrence, right? Brian Thomas Jr., fantastic pick last year, but it was him and kind of a bunch of meh receivers, unfortunately. You know, Parker Washington, Gabe Davis, he's just been released. I know people kind of all liked him as it's his fault the receiver market is kaput because he was paid by the Jags when he was. And then Christian Kirk. No, it was Christian Kirk that got the receiver market. That
was insane.
Correct, mate. Get the good for Christian Kirk, man. Get your bag. But I mean, NFL owners must be
fantasy as well. Christian Kirk. When you're in bye week hell, chuck him in the flex. Always scores a touchdown.
That's true. That's the thing is that Christian Kirk, despite the money attached to him, is not a top 20 wide receiver. I don't think. I mean, that's just off the top of my head. And speaking of wide receivers, they added Travis Hunter, who's going to be a fantastic wide receiver one, like Garrett Wilson-esque. Great compliment to Brian Thomas Jr. He's going to play offense, I think, for the Jags. It just makes the most sense where they need him. He might play some cornerback, whatever, but I'm going to focus on him as a wide receiver here because him and Brian Thomas Jr., one of the best 1-2 wide receiver duos in the NFL. I think it's top 6. You might have CeeDee Lamb, George Pickens just got traded to the Cowboys. They might be up there. Obviously, you've got, maybe the Texans. Anyway, besides the point. But that's fantastic. And then Jeremy Brown is a nice wide receiver 3. So, I mean, I love what they've got there with their, you'll have Hunter work in the short and intermediate areas. You've got Brian Thomas Jr. who has the speed to take the top of a defense. You got as well then Jeremy Brown from the slot. I just think it works really nicely. They improved the offensive line, brought in Patrick McCarron, Robert Haseley in free agency, Wyatt Millam in the draft as well. I would have liked them to draft a running back. I'm not blown away by Travis Etienne and Tank Bigsby. They did draft Bashal Tootin, but I mean, he's just a guy that ran fast. I think it wasn't really high on my running back list. I don't know about you knew. But they've improved their offense, improved their front office, improved their coaching. They're going to be a better team. I think this is a new era for the Jacksonville Jaguars.
I think that's a good shout, Dom. I think the only issue is I'm not super sold on Liam Cohen as a head coach, and especially the way they got him. It doesn't quite sit right with me. But
give me your Duval.
And obviously, they've got no first-time pick next year, so they are really all in on this team they have now, which I don't have a problem with.
Yeah, well, exactly. I mean, like, if they get a record, which I think they will, which will be above 500, then, okay, you lost your first overall pick. I think there's worse things happening at sea when you got Travis Hunter, I think. So I'm all for it. I like the aggressiveness. I hated what the Jags were doing under Trent Baalke, and James Gladstone, the new GM, has come in and just completely cleared house. So for that, I absolutely love it. Who else do you have on your list then, Nick?
So my 4th is the Los Angeles Chargers.
Oh, I don't have them on my list, Okay, this is going to be interesting.
Yeah, so I infamously mocked them at Marion Hampton back in December, and that taken aged so well. I love the tandem of him and Harris. They are going to be a run-first team, and Marion Hampton fits that identity so well. I love teams with, specific identities that they can lean on.
Yeah, like the Ravens.
Out there, but I really think the Chargers really embody that. I thought they had a great draft. I love Trey Harris as well, 2nd round pick.
Yes,
he's great with Lamb McConkey, and they picked McCoy and Nick Gadsden in the 5th. I really like what they did with this offense. They've committed to the run first, which almost got into the playoffs last year, and they just added a few nice receiver pieces, which they didn't have to pay loads for or use high draft capital on. I really think they're poised to make the playoffs this year, and maybe with a potential Chiefs regression, I could see them maybe taking the division crown.
Yeah, you know what? I like that shout from you. They're not on my list. They weren't even someone that I was going to put as an honorable mention. But I keep forgetting that the Chargers drafted Trey Harris, and I love that bit. Like he's
really under the radar.
Yeah, really under the radar. And like you said, Lamb McConkey is a fantastic 1B. Unfortunately, I think he's capped that due to his size and how he's going to operate mostly from the slot. But Trey Harris, I really like that. And Arunde Gadsden as well. You were a Gadsden believer again. I can see why you've gone with these guys, because they're kind of your homers, if you will. But I think he's going to be a great receiving weapon. I mean, Will Disley has frying pans for hands, and Justin Herbert is throwing him fantastic, cover 2 hole shots or up the seam or whatever, and he's just dropping these throws. And as I believe in Justin Herbert, I think Justin Herbert, Baker Mayfield, Trevor Lawrence, they are the quarterbacks that I will ride or die for. And I'm a massive Justin Herbert truther, much to the dismay of a lot of people that we talk to in real life on this, and I'm sure on the app as well. But like you say, with them doubling down with the run game, I mean, they added Mekhi Becton in free agency, also took back Mike Williams as well. And yeah, I mean, I like saying, I like a team that has an identity, like the Ravens to a degree, something like the Chiefs as well. The Bengals in just trying to score as many points as possible and let Joe Burrow sling it 40 plus times a game. I respect that. And like I say, with Harbaugh, with Roman, getting Amarian Hampton, getting Najee Harris, they have Alt. They've now got Becton as well. They're going to run it and run it and run it and run it. And look, I kind of respect it. Like I said, the more I do stuff like this, the more we talk about this, the more I come round to the run game. Before I was a run game hater, running back doubter. But I'm kind of here for it now. We'll talk about the Chargers when we do our proper kind of Chargers deep dive for the off season and predict their wins and losses. I like that shout from you, though, Nu. Now, I have, like you've had the Chargers being one of your teams that drafted loads of your guys, the New England Patriots drafted so many of my guys. I I might as well have been in the draft room with them. Like, if I ever need to think, would I make for a good GM? If I look at this Patriots draft class in a few years' time, I'll know if I am or am not. Because if this class is terrible and the Patriots are terrible, I'll keep myself to this room with this mic rather than trying to make it on the big stage. But if they're good, because I was so high on all of these guys, right? So obviously, for the offensive line, they added Morgan Moses in free agency. I think their free agency additions were fine. They were, that's what you want in free agency. You want to add like high floor kind of guys who are going to come in, be starters, not necessarily, be stars, but just fill holes. Obviously had Morgan Moses. They brought in, Milton Williams and Harold Landry. And they're great. They're fine. Milton Williams especially was the big money one. Didn't love Landry, but in the draft, Will Campbell, my OT1, someone I loved. I know you did as well. Drake May's now got 2 new tackles. They also drafted Carl Williams, my wide receiver 4. I had him as a first-round player, top 20. I think he was my 20th ranked player, so I loved Carl Williams. I think he's going to be the de facto wide receiver 1 for Drake May. I'm sure Stephon Diggs will still command his fair share of defensive attention, but I think that Carl Williams is going to outperform. Well, maybe not outperform, but I think he'll be more efficient than Diggs. Do you know what I mean? Like, Carl Williams, I think, will do more with less, not necessarily have more production in terms of yards or touchdowns, but I do think he's going to be really good. And then they've still got Polk, Douglas, Booty to be those 2, 3s, whatever. Then they took Traven Henderson in the draft as well. Electric rushing, receiving threat, and the best pass protector in this class. Great compliment to Ramondre Stevenson and this is where it even gets even better. So if you didn't think that Henderson, Campbell, Williams, 3 of my favourite players in this class was enough. Their UDFA, they also drafted Braden Swinson, the edge from LSU, who was a top 40 player for me, and they got him at 140, something like that. Fantastic value for a great pass rusher. And they also, as undrafted free agents, added FCS's finest, Lan Larenson, the running back from UC Davis, and Ethan Chisholm, the wide receiver from Eastern Washington State, I believe it is.
Yeah, it's the Cooper Cup one.
The Cooper Cup one. Yeah. The Eagles.
Yeah.
And there's like 7 players there that I just loved. Like, Lan Larson was my favourite player in the draft. His family members were liking my tweets because I was being very vocal about how good he was. So that was great to see. So I hope he can kind of carve a role as that, maybe a returner, maybe RB3, maybe kind of, we'll see what happens there. And not to mention, new from injury, the Patriots are going to get back Christian Barmore, who they had for like 3 or 4 games, and Christian Gonzalez. I just think, and not to mention they've got Mike Vrabel and a new coaching staff. I just think this team has taken so massive strides in helping Drake May in finally kind of rounding off their rebuild almost off the back of Mac Jones and Tom Brady leaving, etc., etc. I think the Patriots are going to surprise people this year.
They're my number 2 team. Of our most improved. And also Jared Wilson, the centre, number 1 centre on the ball they got in the 4th round. Another great
I forgot about him. Great.
And like you said, a great solid free agency, really just buffed out the squad. But I think Mike Vrabel is an absolute home run high of a head coach. He took a pretty bad Tennessee team to 2 AFC Championship games. Ended Tom Brady's time in New England. He is not some fool. He's not a first time, he's not Jared Mayo, he's not Liam Cohen. He's a proven, tested head coach with winning experience. And with Drake May adding all these weapons, I think the receiver room's still a bit shaky because I wasn't as high on Carl Williams. But I think Stephon Diggs, Matt Collins as well, they got in free agency.
Yeah, Matt Collins, Polk, Javon Baker maybe.
But I think they'd be wise to adopt the Chargers style run heavy, take a bit of the pressure off Drake May, but I really like this New England offseason, Dom.
Right now, Nu, if you had to say how many wins are the Patriots going to get, we won't hold you to this, but just right now, on the 7th of May, as we're recording this, what are you setting the over-under at? Actually, that's a better question. What are you going to set the over-under at? So you don't have to say either way, but if you're a betting man, where are you setting that?
7.5.
And would you take the over? I'm hammering the over.
I think it's hard because it all depends on their division. Their division's so up and down.
That's true.
If the Jets have a good year, if the Bills as well, if they're losing their it's hard to say. But I think the Dolphins are pretty weak. So I would take the over, but I think 7.5 would be the money line.
I like 7.5, but I would like that over a lot. But going then, Nu, from a team that I'm going to be bullishly high on this offseason, we're going to one which you were infamously bullishly high on last offseason, and that is the Chicago Bears. Are they on your list?
They're my number 1 most improved team, Dom.
They're my 2, so that's perfect. So There's less roster turnover here than for the other teams that are on this list, but they acquired arguably the biggest single off-season acquisition in Ben Johnson, the most sought-after coach in however many coaching cycles we've had. I can't really remember someone like Ben Johnson being available and just everyone wanting him, right? Like every free head coaching vacancy, Ben Johnson here, Ben Johnson here. And the Bears' offense from top to bottom last year, from the top down, was just incompetent. They were snatching defeat from the jaws of victory. Obviously, have the Washington defensive blunder. We have Caleb Williams taking huge sacks on 4th down. We have him holding onto the ball for too long. And he was struggling, Caleb Williams. He didn't play well. That's not fully on him. It is obviously to a degree, but I think it's bad coaching. Like the fact that he's taking sacks on 4th down or isn't getting the ball out on time, it's bad coaching, I think it comes down to. It wasn't a good season. I got some flack on this. I got my first time hate on Twitter the other day when someone said like, "Oh, Caleb Williams only threw 6 interceptions, which is the lowest rate since Aaron Rodgers." And I'm like, yeah, but he had the second highest pressure to sack rate. He wasn't throwing the ball. He was just taking sacks instead. Like, and he was like, this is loser stuff. You're trying to dog on Caleb. I'm like, what? No, I'm not. I'm just trying to appreciate that you can pick one stat out of anywhere and make anyone look good. But anyway, Ben Johnson now is the most competent coach in the league, or at least available coach in a head coaching cycle. I don't want to put him up there, with the GOAT of the coaching world. But as a coordinator, he was one of the most competent we've seen. Right, he had an amazing Lions offense, cooking with Jared Goff. I know he's kind of catching a stray there, but I think we can all agree that Caleb Williams is more physically talented than Jared Goff. Maybe not at the moment, but I think we could safely say that. And he's already rebuilt this Bears offense in his image. New 3/5 of the offensive line are new. Joe Tooney, Drew Dalman, Jonah Jackson. That's a whole new interior offensive line. We know that the Lions feasted because of their strong offensive line. And they also feasted in 12 personnel, which the Bears were terrible in last year. And now they've drafted Colston Loveland from Michigan to pair with Cole Kmet. So that's fantastic. They added Luther Burden, wide receiver 3. He'll be the scheme target. Maybe Amon-Ra St. Brown-esque kind of player in the short and underneath area of the field. And they were already a decent team on paper. They just needed that coach to take them over the top.
I completely agree on. That's why they're my number one team. I think the line is the most important thing to hammer home here. The fact that they've literally just bought a new offensive line, and it's something that translates well in free agency. Offensive linemen usually, I'm going flashbacks of Nate Solder as a Giants fan, but these are proven Super Bowl winning linemen. Who can really their line is now above average, which is all you need. And I wasn't a massive fan of the Loveland pick. I gave it a D+, I believe, in my snap ratings. But that Luther Burden pick saved it for me. He was a top 20 player. Getting him in the second was absolutely amazing value. That gives a bit more life to the receiving core. He can be the Keenan Allen replacement, I guess. He's obviously getting on a bit. And like I said, Ben Johnson, what a hire. This Bears team, I was hammering, never wrong just early, Dom. Never wrong just early. And I really think Ben Johnson can take this Bears team to the next level.
So what? How many wins did you say the Bears were going to get last season? I
said they were going to make the playoffs, which I was obviously not right about. But
do you think they'll do that now?
You know what? I'm going to go a hot take. I think they're going to win the division. I think the Bears are going to win the NFC North. That is my preseason hot take.
I mean, the Lions,
the Packers, the Lions, and the Vikings.
I think the Lions are at risk of doing an Eagles 2 years ago, having lost both their coordinators. I know Dan Campbell's good at creating a culture, but fundamentally Aaron Glenn and Ben Johnson were a massive reason for that success. Packers, they're still a pretty good team. The Vikings have McCarthy. Look, I can see it. See it. And I think that the Bears' offense, player for player, is the best in the league. I mean, they've got 3 wide receivers. They've got DJ Moore. They've got Rome Odunze, they've got Luther Burden, and they've now got Colston Loveland. You can't find me a better starting 3 receivers and a retire end in the league. I don't think one doesn't exist. So Caleb Williams, it's do or die. I think I don't want to be too hyperbolic here, but we got to see some more stuff this season. Doesn't have to set the world on fire. Doesn't need to be Patrick Mahomes, but definitely needs to be better than what he was. Otherwise, it's gonna be worrying. Now, have we covered all of your teams? Because I got one more new.
Yes, you've covered all my teams, yeah.
So I think the team that has improved the most this offseason is the Las Vegas Raiders. They were a terrible team. I mean, they had a top 5 pick for a reason, right? Bad coaching. Antonio Pierce was a good interim head coach. Nothing more than that, unfortunately. Now, Pete Carroll has come in. He's not exactly at the cutting edge of coaching. He's not going to run an offense like Ben Johnson or kind of go out of what he's already done throughout the rest of his career. He is the oldest head coach in the league. But this guy knows how to win, and it is an upgrade at the top, which does trickle down. Chip Kelly, he's coached in the NFL before, but he's coming from Ohio State. I don't love those college to NFL transitions, but I'm intrigued to see what he could do. And then Geno Smith. I mean, I think that the biggest upgrade was Ben Johnson coaching-wise. I think the biggest quarterback upgrade we've seen in free agency was Geno Smith to the Raiders. I mean, he, I think, is one of the most overhated quarterbacks in the league. I would say that Geno Smith is comfortably a top 8 quarterback in the NFL, and it's not 8. Let's put it that way. It is not 8. I think he's so good. He's got such an arrogant arm. He's so good at the deep ball. It's because he's earned it. Like he's made some fantastic throws in his career. And going from who was it? Gardner Minshew and Aiden O'Connell to Geno Smith. That is a massive upgrade at the most important on-field position in the game. And look, Aiden O'Connell, fine backup. But please, can we let the Gardner Minshew wearing jorts stuff die? That was pre-pandemic, I feel. Maybe even just during. I don't know, but it feels like a fever dream, that stuff. Let that go. And then, not only do they have the biggest upgrade at the quarterback position, I think they also had the biggest upgrade at the running back position by drafting Ashton Genty. Like, their run game last year was very rare in the sense that the reason why it wasn't good isn't because they didn't have a good offensive line. The Raiders do have a good offensive line. It was because their running backs were cheeks. They were terrible. They were so bad. And they've gone to Ashton Genty, who is literally a generational talent at running back, running behind a good offensive line. Genty is as big an upgrade at running back as Geno is at quarterback. They also added Jack Besh, a player that me and you both love. Knew he's going to be so solid next to Jacoby Myers, another very underrated wide receiver, and Brock Bowers. I just think the Raiders are going very under the radar right now, and I think they are going to be a team which is really going to turn how we view the AFC West, around. Because previously it's just been the Chiefs and then their whipping boys, right? The Broncos with like Russ and with Sean and Nathaniel Hackett, and the Raiders with like Antonio Pierce and Aiden O'Connell. I think both those teams are, obviously the Broncos aren't, and we know that they made the playoffs last year, but I think the Raiders are going to be my like dark horse playoff shout here. I think they could definitely make the playoffs this year.
You're completely right, Dom. They have improved, but the issue I have with the Raiders offseason is that I don't think their moves are like inspiring in any way. You know, as a team, you've always got to try to win the Super Bowl. And I'm not saying the Panthers are going to win the Super Bowl, but you've got to. I think you're capping yourself at 9-10 wins with the selections they made. You know, I like Geno Smith. I don't agree. I don't like him as much as you do, but I don't see him taking them to do a deep playoff run. Take a Pete Carroll. You know, he's not a new offensive mind. He's not going to innovate this team. They can definitely improve, but I just think their ceiling is still not very high.
But this is a team that has a top 5 pick this year, that had a top 5 pick, and I think they're going to be picking in like the mid-20s next year by virtue of potentially making the playoffs. I don't think any team is going to have a bigger jump in that regard than the Raiders. The Bears were 10th. They might make the playoffs. The Panthers were, 4th? And the Patriots, to be fair, were 3. So there could be, but I feel best about the Raiders, I think, out of those bunch, out of the Panthers and the Patriots making the playoffs and making a move. But I'm really high on all of those teams. Like, I'm new. It's May. I'm already really excited about the season that's coming. You can see on the screen now our top 5 plus minus mention teams that we have up there. And like we said at the beginning, thank you again for 1,000 subscribers. We really appreciate the support. Let us know in the comments if you agree or disagree with what me and Nu have been saying. Give us your own suggestions. If you feel like we've missed out your team, let us know why. I would love to put the Texans on here, but we don't have an offensive line, so I think that's going to be pretty ugly. We'll see how that turns out. But I've been your host, Dom Corbs. That's my co-host, Nick Corbs. Make sure you subscribe for more NFL offseason content. We'll see you on the next video.
See ya.